It's 5:15 and we're ready to call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the March meeting of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission's meetings. I'm Monroe Luis and I'm the chair, and I will call the meeting to order. So why don't we start with roll call and establish a quorum. And then we'll come to 1B on the agenda, which is translation services, which we're going to have at our next meeting. So, hello, Commissioner Liu.
Hi.
Go ahead with roll call.
Yes, Chair LaBouisse.
Present.
I'm present. Commissioner Nori, Amaya Nori. Vice Chair Heber Levy.
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Bocanegra.
Present.
Commissioner Bustos.
Present.
Commissioner Safik Nori. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Here.
Commissioner Swope.
Here.
Commissioner Mutila. And Commissioner Wilson. Okay.
Okay, great. I think we have a quorum. So thank you, Commissioner Liu. We, on 1B on the agenda, it says translation services. And I want to recognize our translation services, Victor Hernandez and Francisco. Where's Francisco? Is he still on? Yes, Francisco Dolores. Thank you.
Thank you.
We intended to have translation services in the Zoom for this meeting. The county's providing services for us. We had some technical difficulties. We need to get that set up in the Zoom for next time. But thanks to Commissioner Rasmussen, we did secure translation services from the county. Thank you, Commissioner Rasmussen.
Very welcome.
And we will have that starting in April. Did you want to add anything, Commissioner Rasmussen?
No, I'm just very pleased that we're able to offer this because we've been having some of our parents join us, and they speak Spanish. And so I think this will really open up our attendance to families in the system. So I'm very, very pleased that we were able to secure these services.
And quickly from the county. So thank you, Victor and Francisco, for being here. And next time we will have the technical setup so that you can provide the services. In the meantime, if there's anyone on who wants to ask them a question with a private message while they're still here, they're available. Okay. So our first order of business is to approve our minutes from, and we're going to do January and February. There were some corrections to the January minutes at our last meeting. So is there a motion to approve both
of the January minutes?
A second.
Just January, or we're gonna do one at a time?
I think. Yes.
Yeah, sounds good. And a second from Commissioner Liu.
Yes.
Any edits, changes to what you saw in the January minutes?
And I noticed a few editorial or grammatical errors, so I'll fix that.
A few grammatical errors, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else have any comments on the January minutes? Okay, voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? All right, the January minutes are approved. Let's move on to the February minutes.
I move approval of the February minutes.
I second.
Thank you, commissioners. Any comments, edits, changes? Commissioner Juvenile, yeah.
Thank you. I had a question about the way we were referring to our committees. And we have the skills attainment and detention committee as an ad hoc committee, but the others as project committees. And I wonder if that was purposeful, or if we are drawing a distinction between the two, or if we're just thinking they're all project committees.
I probably accidentally put it.
That's all right. Just a question.
So
I'm calling things subcommittees, but
technically, as explained to me by our county council, all of our project committees are actually ad hoc committees. You can either have a standing committee or an ad hoc committee, and a project is an ad hoc committee. So
Which
for what it's worth.
interchangeably.
Yeah.
You want it to be an ad hoc one,
Yes.
because if it's a standing committee, you have to notice it like a regular meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so
No change necessary. Just a question.
Maybe going forward, we could just call them ad hoc project committees. I think that's a good way to refer to them. Any other questions or additions or edits to the February minutes? And I did include, I think I pointed this out over an email, but I did include some data that we received from Children and Family Services because they were not present to provide their usual report. So I'd like to attach those to the February minutes. They were in the agenda packet. All right, all in favor of approving the February minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Great. Any abstentions for anyone not approving the February minutes?
Around the table.
Yeah. Welcome. All right, the February minutes are approved. So moving on now to approve our agenda. Any,
Move approval of the agenda.
thank you, Commissioner Swope. Second?
I second.
I think we're gonna be in closed session on that, that we talked about earlier.
Commissioner Wilson, we talked about the possible change to the agenda and we're good. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any comments or changes or questions about the agenda?
Wait, is there a change on the agenda?
No. None yet, anyway. All right, hearing no objection, all in favor of approving the agenda as it was sent out?
Aye.
Yeah, anyone opposed or abstentions? All right, let's proceed with our agenda. First thing on our agenda, item 1F. We have Whitney Ginevro present with us. And I will turn it over to Commissioner Huber Levy, who's heading up our nominating committee, to introduce Whitney.
So good evening, everyone. As the vice chair membership this year, I have the pleasure of introducing a candidate for appointment to the commission this evening. We do currently have 3 open positions on the commission, and our membership committee chair, Louise, Commissioners Wilson, Rasmussen, and Liu are busy with outreach and recruitment in our communities to fill these positions with good candidates who will bring their unique skills and experience to serve the mission of the JJDPC. So we are in the process of conducting interviews with several other candidates and expect to receive a couple of further applications in the next couple of weeks. But tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing Whitney as a candidate for appointment to the commission. Whitney grew up in San Mateo County. She lives in the Bellhaven neighborhood of Menlo Park. She has an impressive background in nonprofit and volunteer work, is a talented writer, and also has a law degree. She's currently working at Wilson Sonsini in Palo Alto as a conflicts attorney, and prior to that worked for Second Harvest of Silicon Valley for 10 years, where she gained experience in developing and implementing programs and fundraising, including grant writing. She decided to go back to law school for her law degree, motivated by her desire to help people in her community who did not have the means or access to adequate representation. She's also now volunteering as a law program facilitator with FLY in Santa Clara County. I mentioned her strong volunteer background. She grew up with a strong volunteer ethic, which was emphasized to her in her family. A core value of hers is to be supportive of her community. She was a youth leader starting at 17, and she continued to work with youth at a number of different organizations, including tutoring freshman college students, through Bayshore Christian Ministries, at Aspire East Palo Alto Charter School, working on a community garden project. I think that's current too, right? Mm-hmm. And she continues to volunteer with Second Harvest, doing food sorting. She's also an active volunteer at her current job, and she was recently voted Volunteer of the Week on LinkedIn. And the quote was, "Whitney is dedicated to giving back and always finds time to be part of the firm's community outreach efforts." She supported the firm's inaugural Juneteenth Day of Service and Celebration, and was recognized as a tremendous asset to the Celebration of Women Initiative Planning Committee as part of the Women's History Month, and connected the firm with local nonprofit partners such as Girls to Women. Whitney is eager to put her energy and skills to use in supporting the commission's work She has made it a priority to learn about the juvenile justice system and wants to be part of positive changes for our youth to make sure all youth in our county can look forward to a bright future. So on the unanimous recommendation of the membership committee, it is my pleasure to move that the commission approve Whitney Ginevro's appointment to the JJDPC of San Mateo County. And we don't need a second to the motion.
It was made by a committee. Well done. Thank you, Commissioner Huber-Levy. Anyone else want to say anything or have questions for Whitney?
I have a question. I was reading your application and I see that you've done a lot of mentorship. Have you done anything on restorative justice when mentoring a youth?
You know, I haven't done that really in my mentoring programs. The programs are more focused like in different type of organizations. So like say if I was working with an organization that was working with teen moms, it was more about kind of focusing on their current situation instead.
Yeah. And then the other question, I see you've mentored youth that have fallen into the juvenile criminal justice system. What was the outcome of that mentorship, and did any of them enter or were pushed into the school to prison pipeline?
It was more for youth that were at risk, so not youth that were necessarily in the juvenile justice system, but they were at risk. So it was kind of helping to guide them to a different path. And so in most cases, it has been very successful.
Congratulations, impressive application. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'll add, I was on the nominating committee and got a chance to interview Whitney, and very impressive background, and very much in favor of having you on the commission.
Thank you.
So if there aren't any other questions or comments, let's have a vote. I think we can do this as a voice vote. All in favor of approving Whitney's nomination, which we will then send on to the court and board of supervisors to join the commission. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Whitney. Yeah, so as you know, next steps are for us to forward this on to the court and to the board of supervisors, who will then, they make the final appointment. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Moving on to section 2 of our agenda. This is the point at which members of the public, I see we have a number of them online and some in the room as well. Welcome you. This is an opportunity for you to make public comment on items that are not on the agenda. There will also be opportunity when we come to other items on the agenda for public comment. But if there are any members of the public that wanted to make a comment, go ahead. I see Nancy Goodman with her hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks Monroe and Commission. I just wanted to thank all of you for everything you're doing. It is so important to help the kids that are in our care in the county. And the more I learn, however, I'm just horrified by how our county treats kids in the system. I had heard the public comment that Paul made about strip searching traumatized kids when they come into the system. I heard that today. I've been trying to help support your resolution to stop the DA from trying kids as adults. Their brains are not developed. They aren't adults. They need a chance at rehab. They need a chance at juvenile system, and we need to have a better juvenile system for them. I'm really upset by the lack of programs that your review showed in the YSC. You know, the lack of decent hygiene, the bad food, the lack of private mental health care opportunities, the lack of vocational, educational, insufficient programming. And just finally, I'm horrified that there are now at least 11 lawsuits against the county for covering up sexual abuse of kids in our care for decades. So just to say thank you as a member of the public, I am here, I am listening, and really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nancy.
I also see Becca Keeler, who has her hand up. Go ahead, Ms. Keeler.
Thank you. I'd just like to second actually what Nancy said, and we were in the Board of Supervisors meeting this morning. It was a very powerful meeting. We introduced In Our Care, which is a group that we formed specifically to support your commission. And the meeting this morning was very powerful. Number one, wanting to support your resolution about not charging children as adults, which as Nancy just said makes absolutely no sense, and it's in no way helping the public safety, which is what a lot of people not connected to the juvenile legal system are afraid of, but it doesn't do anything to help that by charging them as adults. In fact, it's more likely to cause recidivism. And what Paul brought up about the strip searches, again, this organization In Our Care that we've just recently formed and are gathering a lot of support for. We want to be here to support that, to help that. The strip searches should be stopped immediately. We're here to help support that. Thank you. Thank you. As Nancy said, thank you very much for what you do. We're here to support you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment?
Should I talk about that? The stuff I brought?
Oh, you know what? Let's do that next.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, not hearing no other public comment?
Commissioners as well, or just?
No, members of the public. Members of the public. Yeah. This is opportunity for members of the public to make comment.
I don't know how to, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to, I kept raising my hand in there to try to make a public comment. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, that's okay. My name is Sharon Pfeiffer, and I'm actually a parent of one of the juveniles that is at Hillcrest Juvenile Facilities. And I want to thank the JJC for inviting me today. But one of my biggest concerns is going into this is therapeutic detention is what they're calling what they have my son, who could at some point possibly be a lifer at the juvenile facility, and there's some of his other juveniles. To him, to them, there is no therapy in keeping a child locked up with nothing to do. So looking at today's agenda, I'll be thankful for some of the things that you guys are bringing up today, but I would like to hear what we can do to help with making this a therapeutic detention for our boys and girls that are currently locked up in the facility.
Thank you so much for coming to the meeting and making comment. It's really important for us to hear from parents, so we appreciate you being here.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I see Michael Lim, who I believe is a commissioner on the Mental Health Commission still. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, thank you for this time. The announcement I want to make is that the Behavioral Health Commission is looking to fill some of our empty seats, and I just like to make an invitation to anybody who would like to join the commission to please apply. And the way to do that is to go to the Behavioral Health Commission website and email Shantae for that information. And my particular interest in this is to invite somebody from the Justice Involved, anybody with Justice Involved lived experience to do that, because I am looking to have a diverse board of commissioners as possible. So I'm looking for people from LGBTQ community, from Justice Involved community, and from the unhoused community is the ones that I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head. But anybody who is interested in joining, please consider applying.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, is there any other public comment before we move on to section 3 of our agenda? Okay, great. Actually, before we get to section 3, Commissioner Swope wanted to just make one quick announcement. We do have a section for announcements later, but this seemed like a good one to
Make
put at
sure
the
we do.
beginning.
Yeah, I was at the Child Abuse Prevention Council meeting yesterday, and April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. I have ribbons, I have pins, I have little stickers. I only have a few. I wish they had more brochures for me to bring, but there will be a couple of events during the month. One will be a resolution by the Board of Supervisors, and the other will be a remembrance of children who have died from abuse in the county. Fortunately, we've had none this year. And I forgot my notebook, so I will have to provide Joanna with the dates and places that we can put on our social media.
Yes.
So please take, oh, and I brought a couple of the most recent community information handbooks if somebody would like those.
Thank you so much for that, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
We can all wear that all month and hopefully spark some really good conversations in the community.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move on to section 3 of the agenda. This is where we hear from county agencies that work with justice-involved youth and partner with our commission. Usually, Ron Reyes from the Private Defender Group is in attendance. He let me know that he's actually out all week, so he sent me an email update, which I want to read to the commission. He normally provides some numbers of cases and calls to the Miranda hotline. So here are the numbers for March. He has made assignments on 46 cases this month. So far in the month of March. 9 of those are with regard to allegations for 707B offenses. And the rest were either misdemeanors or general felonies. They also handled, the Private Defender Group also handled 42 Miranda consultations through the Miranda hotline. And they received no petitions for sealing of records in the last 4 weeks. So those are the numbers from the Private Defender Group. And I won't call for questions since Ron's not here. This month, I also added to the agenda Ms. Nadia Hahn, who's from the District Attorney's Office, and she's here with us. Hello, Nadia. I just wanted to give you an opportunity if there were any updates or anything new going on at the DA's office with regard to juvenile services.
I don't have any updates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any updates for this month.
Thank you for being here. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Juvenile.
Thank you. So my question, I don't know if you can answer it, but I have been listening to podcasts and reading about the uptick in juvenile crime in San Francisco and issues with guns as well. And I'm just wondering if you noted that we're experiencing an uptick.
So it's a little hard for me to answer that because I'm so new into the position. And I came in January. For those of you who don't know, I replaced Sharon Cho. I have heard from law enforcement agencies that they believe, and I think that I've spoken with Ron about this as well, so I feel sort of confident saying that I've had these discussions, that since COVID and since the lockdown, there has been an uptick, both in, like you mentioned, firearms and in juvenile crimes in general. Don't have any idea what to attribute that to, and I don't have any statistics on it, but that's what I've heard.
They had a really dramatic incident at I forget which mall, but
In San Francisco?
like 100 kids were swarming and yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I've read things like that anecdotally.
Yeah.
Not so much in our county, but
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good news.
Ron Reyes at our last meeting did mention seeing more cases involving youth in possession of firearms.
Yeah.
Which we'll come to later in the agenda, which is why there's a project proposal from Commissioner Nori to look into that and try to understand.
Topical.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Han?
No, thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. Also, we haven't heard for a little while from BHRS. Any updates on what's happening? And Aurora Pena is on the Zoom. And Aurora, if you have any updates or if commissioners have questions, we appreciate you being here.
Hello, everybody. Aurora Pena with the Behavioral Health and Recovery Services Department. No current updates. We continue to provide individual and family therapy and crisis intervention services here for youth at the juvenile hall and some in the community. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah. Aurora, I had a question. Does family therapy occur for all juveniles where the family is amenable, or only for secure track youth in juvenile hall?
So for family therapy, it could be court ordered for any youth who the judge has deemed could benefit, or the probation officer. It could also be for a youth that's here in the juvenile hall. It also could be just because as the clinician is working with the youth and the youth maybe starts talking about wanting to improve family relationships or whatnot, if the family is amenable, then they could be provided family therapy also. So referrals may come from those different areas.
So a rough estimate, if there were 20 youth in juvenile hall, for example, about how many of those youth would have access or have family therapy at some point during their detention?
That's hard for me to say because they're here for different reasons and different lengths of time. So I'm not really able to pinpoint.
Well, I guess that's true because there are lots of kids who come in for brief periods of time. But for most youth who are there for a longer period of time, would it be like most of them, or?
So the goal is for those youth that are going to be in secure track or in prep that the families participate in family therapy so that as they are getting ready to transition out, some of that connection is taking place.
Okay.
And during that time, as is possible, the clinicians do have collateral calls with the parents just to check in with the youth while they're here, and if they have any concerns or anything that they may notice or observe during a visit, or that sort of thing, where they are in communication with the clinician as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I also had a question. Good evening, Ms. Pena. My question is regarding strip searches. Has there ever been a discussion amongst behavioral health professionals that are treating kids that are already survivors of sexual assault and other traumas? Has there been a discussion regarding some sort of alternative programming rather than the strip search ritual that these abused kids that have already survived this have to go through for the safety and security of the institution in your institute, in your line of work?
So we have definitely had those conversations. We have a lot of collaborative conversations with institution staff and probation staff. And again, it's reiterated. We try to, again, approach all of the work that's done here through a trauma-informed lens and not have the youth be strip search, et cetera. Again, I know that at least for youth that are here, and if we are working with them and there are reasons for us to convey without breaking any sort of confidentiality, we do communicate that to the staff and they are very receptive to it. Now, what happens upon a youth being booked in, again, there's a certain protocol that I'm probably not familiar with that I wouldn't be able to speak to, but there is conversation and the staff are very mindful that it could be re-triggering for some, and finding alternative ways of being mindful that the youth are not sneaking in, any objects that they could later use to harm themselves with, everything from a staple to, you know, a paper clip or other items that could be found and used. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it does. How long have these conversations regarding strip searches been taking place? Just offhand, maybe a guess?
So it's usually on a case-by-case basis. Again, that's when there is some work done with the youth, and we know it's come to light, to our attention, that it could be very re-triggering, and then we would reach out to staff to have a conversation about any safety concerns and alternative ways that you know, things could be handled. So it's really on a case-by-case basis when we get involved.
Thank you so much, Ms. Peña.
You're welcome.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So my question had to do with, how are you there? Are you doing, okay, nice to see you again. So my question had to do with staffing. I know that staffing has been hard, that you've been trying to hire folks, and that was something we focused on in the inspection report. Have we had any luck at hiring some additional people, or how is that coming along?
Unfortunately, we have not had any luck in hiring folks. So like new organizations, they are also having folks change careers, retire, pursue other avenues, etc. So we have been actively recruiting. Unfortunately, we just haven't found anybody yet who is interested. Or by the time maybe we get to them, maybe they've, you know, taken other job offers and whatnot. So we do have one vacancy in addition to an extra help position that we hope to be filled, but we just aren't getting the referrals. And it's not only our site. I mean, it's behavioral health in general. Other sites are also short-staffed.
Mr. Swope?
At the CAPC meeting yesterday, all of the people who are involved with behavioral health, mental health, all.
CAPC being Child Abuse
Child
Prevention
Abuse
Committee, yeah,
Council.
yeah.
They're all looking for staff, especially Spanish-speaking staff. They're all short-staffed. They're all desperate. In fact, some of them say one organization tries to steal them from another, and it's tough. We're really short in a lot of ways, and that hurts the adults as well as the children.
Yeah, in all parts of the county, it sounds like, yeah.
I need to speak.
I was gonna ask a follow-up question to your earlier question. Do you mind if I go first?
Please do, yeah.
Aurora, you were saying earlier in response to Melissa's question that if youth is in prep or at camp, then family therapy and individual therapy is a required part of that programming. And that sometimes it may be court ordered, therapy may be court ordered. But in the other situations, am I right in saying that it's voluntary or that it's optional for youth that are there? They can decline it, correct? And if I'm right about that, like how often is that? Like about what % of kids that are there is it optional?
So you are correct. For any youth within the juvenile hall that is not a store or prep or camp youth, designated youth, any youth that's in the juvenile hall, it is voluntary. There are some exceptions. So any youth that has mental health services written into an active IEP, of course, we would have to be in compliance with providing those services as well. We also do follow-up services for any youth that is on psychiatric medication. So yes, they are connected to the psychiatrist, but a clinician will also do some follow-up to ensure that they're not having any like negative side effects or, you know, whatnot. And that, you know, it's working, it's been effective. And if there's any communication that needs to be done with the psychiatrist out of her regular checkups with the youth, that could happen as well. So I don't have percentages. Those are the things that we track here, but a youth can agree to decline services. I mean, we try to offer and inform the youth are informed of the mental health services here. And it's just unfortunate that maybe they've had negative experiences outside of here, or again, also have been mandated. And so now that it's voluntary, they don't necessarily want to continue. That doesn't mean that we don't try to continue to offer the services and remind them and staff out remind the youth also that the services are available. So, and sometimes even though they've declined in the beginning after maybe being here for a while and just the uncertainty of what may be happening with their case and whatnot, that they decide that, talking to someone to help learn some coping skills to manage their stress or anxiety, their loneliness, etc., may actually be beneficial. And then they end up, requesting ongoing services.
Great, thanks. Go ahead.
I wanted to follow up on our parent comment about therapeutic detention. And I'm wondering, Aurora, if BHRS has ever offered to evaluate the programs within a therapeutic lens for probation.
So again, we do a lot of collaborative work with the institution staff, with Ms. Clark and with Ms. Stoffer and others in leadership to talk about what services might look like. And, so there is a lot of collaboration, as well as they, do their outside consultations as well and bring that information back. So it does happen.
All right, thank you, Aurora. That's really helpful. And obviously youth mental health is extremely important, especially these days. And hearing from a parent earlier really made this a timely topic. So we appreciate you taking all the questions.
No, you're welcome.
So moving on to 3D on the agenda. Ms. Pena just mentioned Ms. Clark, who I still see on Zoom. I know she's out of town at a training, and Ms. Clark, we really appreciate you Zooming in. Do you have any updates on what's going on in probation?
Let me see if I can, I just pulled over. So let me see if I can turn on my camera. Hold on.
Oh,
okay.
Be safe, Ms. Clark.
Yes. No, I'm parked. So just minor update, as you know, Melanie is retired or will be retired officially as of Thursday. Not sure what the plan is going to look like once she's gone, but I am reporting on both juvenile and institutions. Currently in the hall, there are 35 youth, 4 females, 31 males, and 4 at our girls camp, 2 from our county and the 2 from Sonoma. We also have 23 youth on electronic monitoring. For the month of February, we had 345 total cases, 217 were diversion court, 128 supervision, with 44 new cases. And then for our diversion cases, we had 8 that were for assessment contracts, 8 that were referred for victim impact awareness, mediation and petty theft, and 31 new cases that were referred to the district attorney's office for a total of 47. And for our gang, there's 8. We still continue to have 0 youth at placement, 2 receiving AB-12 services, and we have 4 youth that are on FPP wrap. And our top 5 offenses were first-degree robbery, first-degree residential burglary, lewd and lascivious acts with a child, sexual assault, and vehicle theft.
And those 5 offenses are for new cases in the past month, or those are just the new cases?
New cases, yes.
Okay.
If you get older.
That was a lot.
It's recorded, so
can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Rasmussen.
Do you happen to know how many out-of-county kids are on EMP right now with a private vendor?
That I do not know.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. It's always good to see.
Is this the time for questions?
Ms. Clark, The 35 in the hall right now and the 345 total seems like an increase from recent numbers, and it's sort of getting back to pre-pandemic numbers, if I remember correctly. Do you have any understanding or reason of why we're seeing an increase? I know it's kind of steadily been going up, but I mean, I think it has. Sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, we have seen an uptick. I would not say pre-pandemic numbers. Prior to the pandemic, we were probably in the 50s and 60s. So we're nowhere near that.
Okay.
We had 3 units open and we continue to only have 2. We have had, I think there's just a little bit more crime being committed. But I think our numbers have increased, but then have still kind of remained a little steady.
So I just want to be sure the 35 isn't kind of a spike at one point in time in the month, that this is kind of a higher steady state.
This has been a higher steady state. I would say probably, give or take on any given day, probably this past maybe 2 months, 3 months. I mean, we've been probably in the high 20s to low 30s.
Okay.
I think that probably has a lot to do with policing. Right now, they're going back to how they used to patrol before, and the citations when they would release kids. Now they know that they can take kids back to the hall. So I think it's on the street, really, the impact of what the police officers are doing, because before they're just citing and releasing the kids out on the street. Now they know that, I think personally, from my observation, I think that has something to do with it. Now that they know that they can bring kids up again, I think that's changed the dynamic.
I think that could be part of it. I know we haven't really changed our booking procedures as far as, there's really strict criteria. I mean, it has to be a safety and security risk. I know we do get calls where they do still try to bring youth in, and we turn them away. But I think, like you said, probably prior to the pandemic, or even while we were in the pandemic, the policing has changed. And I think we have seen the difference in that. And that could be seen more so taking, our bookings out, but looking at the probation numbers and the reports that have come in. And then even looking at our diversion numbers, if you look at the past few months, they've gone, up because we're still trying to divert cases.
You're saying you haven't changed your booking criteria, so it still has to meet the same bar or level of a case in order for you to take a youth in. Otherwise, you'll turn it away. That hasn't changed.
No.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if there is an uptick. That, there's definitely more documented activity in terms of youth violence and.
You could be. I think we're speculating, right?
Yeah,
Like
we are
whether
speculating.
it's, yeah.
But I mean, there are clues that we can pay attention to.
Sure. Yeah. Any other questions for Ms. Clark?
Yes, I always have a question for you, Ms. Clark. And thank you for always attending ours. You're a veteran there for sure, and thank you for all your years of service in our youth services center. But my question is regarding strip searches. And maybe if there's ever been some sort of discussion in your probation department to find some alternative to the strip searches of youth that are survivors already of sexual abuse. When we get on an airplane, we have the best security in the world. We don't go through this ritual of having to take all our clothes off and show our genitalia to security. Has there ever been a discussion in probation to move away from this practice that you're aware of or that you've been a part of?
Well, I'm not sure, if you're thinking, if we strip search, on a regular basis. I think I'm kind of confused because we've kind of gone away from regular strip searches a while ago. So I'm kind of maybe, you can give me a little bit more.
I can clarify. And I apologize for that if I didn't make clear. Has there ever been a discussion since you've been there, to find an alternative for our young boys and girls, to be able to suffice for safety and security of the institution, without them having to show their genitalia to staff members and on camera.
Like a machine.
Like a machine, like you get on an airplane and we're looking for terrorists, we go through this machine that allows us to get on that airplane. Has there ever been a discussion since you've been at the probation department to kind of move away from this ritual that has been in place since the beginning of the juvenile criminal justice system, I think since the 30s?
Well, I mean, I know we have talked about a machine. I think we have gone away, and you referring to you showing their genitalia, we changed from that years ago. So I'm not sure where this is coming from, because this has been a change for years now. Even when we even conduct strip searches and things like that, we have had and have modified for a while now and constantly modifying. And so I'm not sure, I mean, and I don't know if this is the format, and maybe we could talk after, because showing genitalia, that's not something, that's not included as part of strip searches. We don't even have strip searches where you're stripped down totally naked. So we have altered that. And I know we had in the past that was, a practice, but we have gone away from that.
So during intake as well, we're no longer doing that.
No.
Okay, that's good to know.
It sounds like something maybe we can follow up on through the Abuse Prevention Committee that we formed to look at practices, policies, and procedures.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking we could just share our current understanding of what we believe the state of the policy is, and then we can check it with Ms. Clark.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for making yourself available after we need to have that discussion, Ms. Clark. You're the best.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Clark? Ms. Clark, I had one question. We had heard, some commissioners had heard that there might be a change in rules around Zoom visits. Are Zoom visits continuing as they were during the pandemic, where Zoom is an option for family visits?
From my understanding, that has not changed. As you know, I'm not totally running the institution anymore. But from my knowledge, that has not changed, or it should not have changed, but
great.
I'm not sure.
Do we have any insight of Melanie's last day is 2 days from now, I think.
Yeah.
Has a co-conspirator been assigned to you? A new buddy? Do you have a new buddy?
Well, no, that's how I started. I still not sure what it's going to look like, or who her successor will be, or how it's going to look.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's move on to section 4. Oh,
I see, and I don't know if it's appropriate. One of our
yeah, we can call for public comment now. And Sharon, who had spoken earlier, did you want to make comment?
I did, real quick, and I'm sorry to interrupt right in the middle. So in regards to the Zoom visits, we do get them in place of a visit. Our Zoom visits are once a week or twice a week, maybe 10 minutes per visit. Every once in a while, they let it run just a little bit longer. But our Zoom visits are in place of our in-person visits. And our in-person visits are an hour, but our Zoom visits are 10 minutes.
And you have the option to choose which one you want to do?
The boys do, but 9 times out of 10, they want to see their family. The Zoom visits are, to us family members, parents, grandparents, are the times that those who are not allowed and are authorized to come into the hall to visit these children face to face. This is our time frame. So when you only give them a 10-minute visit, phone call, and sometimes it's cut short, like I said, sometimes it's a little bit longer, we go back to that therapeutic. How therapeutic is for these kids to only see their family for 10 minutes. Some of these kids are not from this area. Their families can never come see them face to face, and they only get 10 minutes a week, twice. Unacceptable, not therapeutic, just to let you know.
Thank you for.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, let's move on to, if there are no other comments, then let's move on to section 4 of our agenda. Thank you to all of the county employees and partners who were here and took questions. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. You're out of town and you're in your car, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us.
Always making time for us. We really appreciate you.
No problem. And I'll check into the Zoom visit as well. Just to comment on that, because it's not a replacement to regular visits. So to the parent, if there's any issues with you scheduling a regular visit, just you can follow up.
Great, thank you, Ms. Clark. So we're going to move on to some consideration of new business and also updates on projects that were approved in February. So we're going to move on now to the part of the agenda where we're talking about activities of our committees and commissioners. So first up, we have a motion from Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Wilson, go ahead.
So, and I don't know if Jay, oh good, Jayhan's still on. This is, I think that it's unfair when we ask Jayhan questions that are not underneath her jurisdiction and expect her to represent probation by proxy. And so in order for us to inquire into the administration of juvenile court law, I feel that it would be appropriate if the administrator of juvenile court law, namely Chief Keene, would attend the meetings so that we can dialogue with him. We can't meet exactly in a closed session and talk about all of the issues at hand. And so this public meeting is the provided way for the possibility of dialogue. But there's no possibility of dialogue if he doesn't come. Second thing I want to mention is that, and we'll be talking about this in closed session, but there was an email from John Keene that said it's become increasingly apparent that the goals of our organizations are divergent. And that was an email he sent a few days ago. And, you know, I'd like to have an opportunity to talk to him about what objectives we hold in common, because I believe we hold common objectives. I'd like to talk to him about how our information sharing can be improved so that we can fulfill our oversight responsibilities. And I'd like to talk to him about how we can work to support the services and the programs that need to be in place consistently and fulfill probation's objectives, because I believe that we both want the kids who are in detention to thrive. And I think that we can be an asset to the probation department and to their work. I'd love to see him give us guidance about what kind of projects we should be looking at from a delinquency perspective or from detention perspective. So the purpose of the letter is to formally request that he attend. And I understand that we're not always going to agree with each other because his job is one and ours is to provide oversight of administration. But we cannot move forward and do right by the kids if we're not in communication, if we don't have conversation. And that conversation has to involve everyone. So I've written a letter requesting this formally. We haven't asked this before, and I think it was a mistake that we haven't asked for this before. Shame on us. So I'm going to make a motion to accept the letter. And the letter basically says, for those who haven't been able to read it, it says, we're formally requesting that you come. We realize that people who are representing you may not have the authority or the jurisdiction to speak on the questions that we have, that it is standard practice in all of our surrounding counties to have the chief probation officer attend JJC meetings or JJDPC meetings. And so that's the letter. I'm going to I'm throwing out the idea of doing a postscript because I didn't realize how fractured the relationship was until I heard this email that he sent to Bill Silverfarb, David Canepa, John Neblin, County Council, and Chief Executive Michael Callaghy. And David Canepa is the board of supervisor. Phil Silverfarb is his
Legislative aide.
yeah. So I'm wondering if we should suggest a restorative conversation as well. So I have sort of two motions. One is to adopt the letter as written, and one is to adopt the letter as written with a PS that says, can we talk to you? We'd like to have a restorative conversation through mutually agreeable terms that Monroe may be able to work out with you, something like that.
I second the motion.
Which one? Both motions?
The motion to approve her letter with the addendum.
With the addendum. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments or discussion? Commissioner Huber-Levy.
I have a comment, and I agree in principle with the value of having the chief probation officer here for discussion. Whether he's here every time or whether he's here frequently, regularly. I also am sensitive to the state of the relationship and some sensitivities, and my suggestion would be to reach out first for a meeting. I love that idea of having a restorative conversation. My sense is where things stand right now, this may not be received in the spirit we intended to be received.
Yes, I do agree with you. Things changed. Okay, so an alternate suggestion is for Monroe to invite him by phone to have a restorative conversation, to table this.
Yeah. Can we go around and have everyone?
Yeah, let's talk more. Okay.
So I think that we may want to remove the addendum. And we may want to look separately at what that meeting looks like with Monroe or whatever, but I think that we need to get the letter out. And I say that is because we've let too much time pass already. And the bottom line is we're concerned about the kids and we need to work together, and it's about principles and it's not about personalities, and we need to get down to work. And we cannot start that unless he's in the room or on the Zoom. And so I would strongly support issuing a letter as soon as possible.
Any other comments or discussion?
I think that we've already tried everything we could to ensure that we want to show the chief that we want to collaborate. We've been collaborative. I know I have been collaborative on every level, even when I've been dismissed by this chief, labeled a threat to the safety and security of the institution, a sworn-in commissioner. I think that we've gone above and beyond what is necessary to establish some sort of collaborative relationship. As a commission, I think all dimensions of this commission have attempted this. And over my years, I've just seen the distance become more perceivable. And with that statement of divergence, clearly in black and white, we're headed in two different directions here. We support oversight, we support rehabilitation, we support restoration. I would like to know what path that he is on that makes it divergent from everything that we have stood for and worked for from day one, as long as I've been a part of this commission. So I think that we should send this letter out just so we can finally get this period on a non-collaborative effort, and we can move forward through the public.
I just had a question to clarify. Has anyone asked Chief Keen to come to our meetings before?
When I became chair in 2022, Chief Keen and I had a meeting, an introductory meeting over Zoom at the time. I did ask him to come to our meetings and offered him a floor, right? Like an opportunity to come and talk to us. That was over a year ago. I haven't done it since. Not that specific question. We have had other opportunities to talk with Chief Keen. I go quarterly to the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council meeting, although there are different topics there. And Paul and I do meet on a monthly basis with the Reimagined Juvenile Hall Committee, which includes Chief Keen and the county executive and the DA and others. But again, those are meetings that are limited to specific topics. And we don't have the kind of opportunity to set our own agenda and ask questions. But it's a good question, Wesley, and I have not extended that invitation again, since that first meeting, because it seemed to me that the chief wasn't interested in coming to the meetings and felt that sending his team would suffice. But
and that is the same question I asked in a sex abuse prevention committee meeting. I asked that same question, and Monroe thought that a letter might be the right time, that the informal invitation had been offered. I have no problem. Any way we can have it happen is great with me. So if a phone call and then you have the authority to send the letter, fine. If it's a phone call and a restorative conversation, fine.
Just so long as we get the dialogue going.
The message has to be sent.
Yeah. And your point is that with the letter is that the dialogue should be with the whole commission.
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately.
We need a venue for the commissioners to be.
Yeah,
able to-
I don't think, one or two people can, that's again by proxy, those are by proxy conversations. I think there are enough problems around trust and perception that we actually have to have this involve everybody. And I would welcome if he would bring his team,
Right, we have a dialogue every month with Ms. Clark, and we've had Ms. Stoffer.
we have layers and layers and years of really, I will say, miscommunication that has had really devastating consequences, like me being removed as a volunteer in the juvenile hall and his staff not coming to our meetings for a couple of years. Or a year, I don't know how long. Over a year. And this comment he made was simply in response to Johanna saying to Dave Canepa that this wasn't being photocopied by probation, that we're not getting basic administrative support, and his department is designated as our admin support. And in that email, he says, I'm not interested, basically. I'm not interested in supporting the work of the commission.
He said firmly not interested.
Did that go to all the commissioners, or to whom did it go? Because I didn't see it, but it could be my problems with my new computer.
No, I sent that on my own because I've been the one incurring expenses. And so I sent that to David as our representative saying, David, I'd like to make you aware that I'm the one who pays for the Zoom account for our meetings. Okay, that comes out of, when we came time that we needed to print the inspection reports that are about collectively 200 pages each one, and they had to go out to a dozen agencies and they had to be mailed. When we asked probation, could you do that for us? They declined. So that's almost $1,000 in printing expenses. So it was, okay, we've let this go on for so long. Now we're back into the inspections. When does it stop? How do we get a budget? Who do we go to? Right? Because we cannot expect commissioners to be carrying these fees and expenses, especially when they're mandates. They're mandates. Like, quite honestly, when they declined to print the agenda, that was my final straw. Like, if we can't get it, and we weren't asking to deliver it here, we would have gladly picked it up. But if we can't even get a 3-page agenda, then we've got some serious problems. Like, we're on our own. Basically,
we're divergent. Quote unquote, right? That's what we are. We're divergent.
And so that's why it was, everyone didn't see it. Of course, I forwarded a copy to Monroe and I'm happy to share it.
And for the record, this happened after the this month's meeting agenda was published, so that's why it wasn't included.
Exactly.
Yeah. Commissioner Bustos, did you want to say something?
No, it's just a reaction.
Oh, okay.
So I remember before COVID, I was talking to, I don't know if it was Melissa or if it was Deborah. I remember I was talking, we had a conversation about why is it that we weren't getting, because we had Janet at one point who would take our minutes. And I remember someone telling me that we could get, Keene offered money in the past. He said, we'd give you the money, but the reason we turned it down is because we had problems scheduling a room. And if we had probation providing us with the person to take the minutes, then they'd also schedule a room. It took a lot of work out of our own. So I wondered if that's an option we could explore, where he seemed, and someone told me in the past, he seemed to
Not in
say.
my, yeah, I don't have that as a personal history, so I wouldn't have said that.
I think what Chief Keene wanted was for us to hire somebody, and we're not in a position to be administering all of the.
We don't have a budget.
We don't have a budget.
We can't hire anybody. We don't have a bank account. We don't have anything.
Even with the money that we got for the parents' handbook, that couldn't come to us. We had to have it administered elsewhere. So unless they can enable us to be able to be an employer, which we cannot be under the current.
So I just want to know, we're on to, sorry, guys, we're on to two different topics,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like the motion on the floor is to send a letter requesting Chief Keene's attendance at our meeting so that we can have dialogue.
And I think these.
And there's a separate issue of administrative support, budget, and so forth. Which
But I
is
do
also an
think
issue.
that his presence at the meetings, he would see, this is a real need. This is how they operate. This is, so I think it is, relevant to that extent. And I also want to say that Ms. Clark comes every single month and she handles and fields a lot of very tough questions. And it's really not fair that she's put in this position. And, there's a lot going on right now. And I just think that it would be a sign of, I think it would be good for the employees as well, that he show up and have these conversations with us. Because we certainly do want to partner with him and work with him. And it shouldn't be this difficult to do so.
I guess the only thing I'd quickly bring up is, I guess we had a history. I guess the last one wasn't a letter, but the last thing we'd want to do is do something that might damage our relationship further. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to see how low.
Without dialogue, I can't do my job, which is provide oversight. I can't do it. So then why am I here?
I just wondered.
That's kind of like, that sounded very aggressive, but I've kind of hit the wall where if I don't have the engagement of the juvenile court, the administrator of the juvenile court, and I'm here to provide oversight, I can't do my job. We can't do our jobs.
I can't even see what more damage can be done by him, by our chief, the representative of this great department, and the one who has our children in his care cannot appear before a commission that is only here on behalf of the community to show concern for these youth. How can he not have that in him to come and be present once? What more damage can be done than some of the allegations we got before us today? What more do we need? How much longer do we have to wait? I agree, we send a letter.
Are there any commissioners who haven't spoken yet on the subject that would like to before we call a vote on the motion?
I have spoken, but I just wanted to say that I prefer if we made the letter pending on you having a private informal discussion before sending out the letter.
I would agree to that.
I would agree with her as well. I oppose that.
I oppose that.
All right, so we have, what we can do is we can have two motions on the floor.
No, You
Yes.
only have one motion at a time. So if we vote this down pending making a motion
Right.
as has been discussed.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to send the letter as it's written, but with a PS about having a restorative conversation. And I'll just say before, I haven't said anything about it myself. Since it has been over a year since I did ask him to come to our meetings in a more informal way, I would agree with Wesley's suggestion that I do that again before we send a letter. Because to me, that's, and that's not to say that we couldn't send the letter but before the next meeting, because we could approve sending the letter pending an invitation by me. Because I do have a dialogue with Chief Keen occasionally through email.
Motion to that effect.
Right, so I'll just say that I'm in favor. I think it is a good idea in trying to restore a relationship to not escalate it to something formal right away, when granted, the working relationship has not been good, but I have not, nor has the invitation been issued in a less formal way for over a year. So so I will amend the motion to say I would move that I reach out to Chief Keen and extend the invitation for a restorative conversation and attendance at our meetings. And
regardless of what he says, I'd like you to document it. So if he says, yes, I will, I'm open to this, please document and send that to everybody. And if he says no, please document and send that to everybody.
Yes.
And then my letter becomes a trigger.
Yes, that sounds good.
Triggered.
That is how I would recommend the motion.
It's formal, it's a formal notification.
For the public record that he's declined to participate.
I just wanted to make a comment. My only concern here is that we're framing things as an imperative. And for me, that doesn't feel good. I just think, saying, you here, your butt in the chair, we have questions for you. Every interaction that I've had with people in the county at all different levels, I get one message, which is build the relationship, work on the relationship, be respectful. And I understand that there are experiences that create another feeling, a feeling of lack of trust and distrust. But I also feel that going back to a respectful, restorative-based attitude is kind of what we're all about.
Building the relationship is actually impossible without him in attendance in some manner. And
that is, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, if you require someone to be here and they're not engaging, and because it's a demand performance, I mean, I think what we're asking is for engagement. We're asking for engagement and a true interaction at some level, however it takes place. I mean, ideally, it could take place through communications and through questions being answered and resources being offered. And, Chief Keen was here and did a presentation and shared current.
It was an update on his visit to Sacramento.
Right. So he did come with a purpose. And, if this letter was.
Actually, it's a good point. I invited him to come to that meeting.
And if this letter was phrased with, we would like you to share with us, what the current status of this and this is, and we will have some questions, there might be a different reception than we are demanding that you appear at our meetings.
I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated to hear that. Because he, as a probation chief, should be modeling the same professionalism that every other county has their probation chief in attendance at this meeting.
Every other county.
Every other
county
county that
yes.
I checked all the other, before I wrote this letter, I checked what counties probation chiefs were in attendance. And so far uniformly, that's the expectation. We are professional partners. He has to be here. And I think that we need to set some standard, because we have already allowed him to discriminate as to what he feels comfortable with. What he feels comfortable with is not coming here.
I'll just add that I do think it's a mischaracterization of the letter to say that it's a demand letter.
Yeah.
It does say that we request and that it would be a useful interaction, and so I think it's a respectful letter.
Yeah.
but it is a formal like request, right? When again, I'll just repeat what I said before. I do think that a good first step in restoring a relationship is not to make it formal as a first request, especially since I haven't extended the invitation for over a year. So anyway, I think the amended motion on the floor
And you have to
is.
vote on the amendment first.
Is there public
Okay.
comment?
Oh, yeah, let's hear from the public before we make any decisions.
We can have public comment on this.
Yeah.
But just before we do, are there any other commissioners that want to say anything?
Yes.
Before we go to public comment?
Yes, I wanted to say something. You and I have sat with the chief in this reimagined meetings.
Yep.
You have witnessed the condescending remarks that he has made and demands to stop using the word cage, right? He says that we do not have cages in San Mateo County, we have rooms. I asked, has anyone locked themselves in them cages, or has anyone had to fight for their life in these cages? Nobody on that screen, including yourself. Well, you locked yourself in one of those because I asked you to. It got pretty scary there, right? He's on a different path. He's clearly on a different path. There is nothing to restore as far as I'm concerned. We are using the word restore like as we are trying to restore justice. And there has been no movement on his part to restore any relationship since I've been here. My relationship, my personal commissioner relationship with the chief has been to lock me out of juvenile hall, to be dismissive, to be condescending, and to be disrespectful to a sworn-in commissioner. I took the same oath he took and everyone else took, but I was not good enough to go in there. He did the same thing to all our juvenile commissioners, swore in, had an oath, the same oath that he's taken, and he's barred them as well. So when we speak of restoration, we're trying to go back to something that used to be. Since I have been here, there has never been a relationship. And the fact that he won't even allow his staff to make a copy of a piece of paper to a commission that represents the community, his actions are clear. And I can't use his word enough. It's divergent. His path is clearly divergent. His actions are divergent and his words are divergent. So if you want to restore something that has never been, I'm just asking, what are we trying to restore here? When every other chief in our region is attending these meetings, what is the message to this commission here in San Mateo County? If it is not that we're on divergent paths, what is his message? Verbally, physically, policy-wise? What is his message? His message has been very clear. We're on different paths. And so we are trying to restore something that I have never seen from the gate. From the day that Judge Edizati swore me in, up until now, we're still having the same conversation. So I'll oppose anything that states that we should hold off on this letter or that we shouldn't send this letter. And I'll rest.
Do we think he knows that we want him at the meeting, or is he like unknown?
Should ask Jay on.
Well, he has certainly read the letter, okay? Because I would argue that some other things happened that we will be talking later about as a result of the letter. Okay, so he has certainly, I believe he has read the agenda packet and has read the letter. He knows.
Don't put Ms. Clark on this.
I was just playing, by the way.
Click on it.
Yeah, why don't we invite public comment on the motion? Go ahead, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Rose. I am here, hey, it's Port Jose over here, but also I'm a youth voice coach for Fresh Lifeline for Youth. So yeah, frustrations with probation and like the chief are not new. That's something that like in a lot of like conversations, that's been something that we're trying to navigate, especially when we invite youth to be a part of policy pushing spaces and give their input and feedback. A lot of spaces are like willing to like check off that box of having lived experience, but aren't really willing to do that mapping work to like support them in that. When it comes to this motion, hearing a lot of thoughts and stuff like that. And a thing that we really pride ourselves on at Fly is like, we really want to talk with and not about. From the sounds of it, it looks like the communication on the chief's end is stagnant, right? Like that isn't something engageful or really something like going beyond just like an email thread or other conversations. So I think in my position as a youth voice coach, but then also somebody with lived experience and a member of the public, formality is important, right? Especially when, you know, my organization is in Alameda County and they are having the chief there, right? And they are having engagement and at least a place for that chief to first talk about, you know, alignment and, you know, divergence, right? But kind of going beyond that conversation. Yeah, it's disappointing, right? You, as a chief, you're responsible for so many things, and it seems like there is this idea that your personality is supposed to fit with this work, and that is not the case. This is a position. And this is something that affects and impacts people on a day-to-day basis. I know that, you know, relationships can get strained, and I definitely encourage people to try to build those. But a year of not being there or even more is ridiculous to me. Especially when the things and the topics are extremely serious. I work with these youth. I hear their stories on a day-to-day basis. It is heartbreaking. And they're already like, they don't care, like no one cares, right? Not attending these meetings is a representation of not trying to participate and engage in conversations to not only have our youth not people are surviving in these facilities, right? Not living in them, and not engaging in that is extremely, conversations to make these situations better and more intentional is extremely damaging and really populates the idea that people do not care. And somebody with that title, that responsibility and that accountability not showing up is irresponsible. So I'd like to say that.
Thank you for those comments, Rose.
Thank you, Rose. And we have some hands up.
Yeah, we have Becca Keeler. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. As an individual, as a former social worker, I am all about communication and restoring what can be restored. I think the chief has made his position extremely clear. This is about the kids. This is about our youth. And I don't think there's any reason to stall anymore. I say send the letter. Please send the letter.
Thank you, Ms. Keeler. Padma, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my input. So I think, earlier people were saying, I do strongly believe communication and relationships are important, but at the same time, they're delicate, especially at this level, right? So I don't know a lot of the background in this case, but I do think, what Monroe was saying to, have the initial conversation. And maybe one of the things I was thinking is like, is it possible to, 2-3 people to go to a meeting with him and kind of hear from his side, like, what are the challenges of coming or not coming to the meeting, or can there be a representative? So I feel like that might be, helpful in more in the communications and engagement. But that's my take on it.
Thank you. Sharon, I see your hand up as well. Go ahead.
You guys are gonna hate having me in this meeting. I want to feed off of what the young lady had said about the boys and girls surviving in the hall. These kids have no advocates inside. And for the person who is supposed to help make their lives a little bit easier inside the hall to basically shun you off, he's shunning these kids. Listening to Ms. Clark speak, you have 35 children sitting in that hall, 35 children with voices, and nobody is listening. And he should be the main one. And as a parent, I'm telling you, send the letter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the room? Okay, we have an amendment to the motion that we need to vote on. And the amendment is that I would make an effort to reach out and invite him to the meetings and also invite him to a restorative conversation and to update commissioners on that, right? Before sending the letter as is, where a decline to engage would be a trigger to send the letter. That's the amendment that we have. And the amendment is to the motion, which is to send the letter that is in the agenda packet with a PS or an amendment to the letter that says we'd also like to have a restorative conversation. All right, so is everybody clear on what we need to vote on?
Are we allowed to amend it? Okay. If it's ready, seconded, can we just amend it?
The maker of the motion has to agree to the amendment, right?
No.
No, because Susan's original motion was to send the letter with the PS for restorative conversations.
Melissa.
No, Melissa didn't make the motion.
Yes, she
Susan
did.
made
She
the
did.
motion.
I seconded it.
Oh, but, sorry, Melissa made two motions, right? One was to send the letter as is, one was to send the letter with the restorative PS.
Mhm.
Susan seconded the send the letter with the restorative PS. Okay, so that is the motion. The amendment to the motion is that I reach out and phone call first, right? And document that. And if the response is no, then that triggers the sending of the letter. All right, so first we vote on the amendment. Sorry,
Yes.
yes, the amendment to the motion. First, we vote on the amendment to the motion, which is that I reach out first and as stated. Okay, so let's do a roll call vote on this. Commissioner Liu, are you gonna
Yes.
take it away? All right.
Kayla, please.
I vote in favor of the amendment.
I vote in favor of the amendment as well. Commissioner Amaya.
I vote against the amendment.
Commissioner Heber Levy.
I vote for the amendment.
Commissioner Bocanegra.
Oppose.
Commissioner Bustos.
Oppose.
Commissioner Safik-Nar.
I'd vote for it.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Oppose it.
Commissioner Sloan.
Yes.
Commissioner Uhila.
She's not here.
Commissioner Wilson.
I don't know. I guess I oppose.
Is that all there are commissioners? Do you have the tally? I couldn't keep track.
It's tied.
Did you vote? Did Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, he opposed.
Okay, there were 5 ayes and 6 nays. And did you get the same?
Monroe voted yes. I voted yes.
Amaya was no. Karen, yes. Paul, no. Alan, no. Safik, yes. Johanna, no. I said yes. And Melissa said no. So that's,
So what's the outcome?
Oh, I got 5 yes and 5 no.
Do we have 10 commissioners present?
we have 10 commissioners present.
So it ties. Susan, you're gonna have to help me out.
It's 5 and 5.
What
So-
happens when we tie?
It fails.
It fails. If we tie, if it ties, it fails. So the amendment fails. All right. I just want to make one editorial note here, which is I think that in all the time that I've served on the commission, this might be one of the only times that we've not had a unanimous vote. So congratulations, Commissioner. This is democracy.
Disagree.
This is democracy in action.
Right.
Great. So the motion then without the amendment is that we send a letter that we send the letter with the PS. So we then still need to vote on that.
Yes, you do have to.
Does that need to be seconded or no?
That was already seconded, that was already seconded
It's
by
already on the
Susan.
floor. Okay.
So now with the amendment having failed, we're now voting on the motion to send the letter.
Chair LaBrisse,
I'm in favor of sending the letter.
I vote against sending the letter. Commissioner Amayanori.
I vote for it.
Commissioner Heberlo.
Wow, I'm usually so decisive, but I will go with the decision to send the letter.
Commissioner Bocanegra.
Send the letter, sir.
Commissioner Bustos.
In favor.
Commissioner Safik Marie.
Yes.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Yes.
Commissioner Swope.
Yes.
And Commissioner.
Yes.
So what was the final tally of that, of that
That
one?
was 9-1.
9-1.
We're back on track.
All right. The motion passes to send the letter.
Thank you for your
And the
work.
letter is just, well, we'll talk after.
As written,
The
but with the
letter
post-
as written with the PS, which,
That I've given you the structure.
no, well, the letter is signed by you.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's appropriate, honestly. I think it should be signed by the chair, but you were not comfortable with that, so I'll own it.
You made the motion, but then there was no letter, so that it was, that's the way it was in the agenda pack.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good. Moving to the next part of our agenda.
On a lighter subject, not at all. Okay.
Sorry, just give me 1 second, Commissioner Rasmussen. Just so everyone in attendance is following along, we're moving on to section 5 of our agenda. And we're going to talk about current ad hoc committees that are working on projects. And these were all just approved, actually, almost all were just approved in February. So these are just updates on activity by commissioners in our projects for 2023. So Commissioner Rasmussen, please take us away. 5A, Sexual Abuse Prevention Committee.
All right, so our Sexual Abuse Prevention Committee was formed as a result of the 12 lawsuits that were filed in the Superior Court that allege a series of sexual abuse over many years. And as we know, there's been a history of sexual abuse in this county that goes back in excess of 40 years. So we formed this committee to look at the policies, practices, procedures, protocols relating to reporting, training of staff, etc. We meet weekly. We've met 3 times now, is that correct, committee members? We've met 3 times. We have sent a letter to the chief letting him know that our committee, our ad hoc has been formed, and he has sent a message back to us acknowledging that, and that we also sent a list that's in the agenda packet of the information documents we're interested in reviewing, and he has stated that he will make those available to us as soon as possible. We've also requested copies of the budgets for the probation department, and members of our ad hoc committee, just as a reminder, are myself, Commissioner Bocanegra, Chair LaBrisse, Commissioner Huber Levy, Commissioner Wilson, and Commissioner Bustos. Have I forgotten anybody else?
No, I think you got them all.
Okay. So that is where we stand. We're actively meeting. We are actively working. We are in the process. We've outlined the documents we wish to review, and we will be reporting on our progress each month.
And a copy of that letter is in the agenda
It
packet
is.
for anyone who wants to see it. Great. Any questions for the committee and the chair of the committee, Commissioner Rasmussen?
My main question is, I'm sure there are other investigations underway, and I would just like to know which bodies are making those investigations, and if are we duplicating effort, or because this needs to be done.
Yeah, I think it's inappropriate that we aren't being, I'm sorry, not totally off topic. I promise. I think that we need to be asking county council to be advising us, because they should have told us as well about these lawsuits. And we need county council to be engaging with us on this investigation, because you're absolutely right. We shouldn't be duplicating things if they're being handled. And why isn't anybody talking to us about what they're doing?
And why has no one invited the commission to send somebody to be on their committee?
Correct.
That's a very good point, Susan.
Correct.
There is some committee that's reviewing all of the documents. People don't need to be sending duplicate documents, but we need the opportunity to be part of the review.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify one thing, which is that the Sexual Abuse Prevention Committee has been talking about current policies, practices, and procedures, and the letter that is in the agenda packet, the information that is requested has to do with current policies, practices, and procedures. My understanding is that the investigation in response to the litigation that's going on is that investigation is into what happened in the past. Was there cover up by the county as alleged in the, so those are two different things.
No, I think this is part of the,
I'm just clarifying that the letter that we sent requesting information is not about what happened in the past, about the past allegations. Meaning we're not asking for details of what happened in the past and whether there was cover up by the county, because that's
true.
That's happening in the litigation.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is, the people who are doing the litigation and the cases need to know all of these things as well.
Maybe we need to have counsel tell us that or not. But I'm not sure that's true because the litigation is about cover up in the past and incidents that happened in the past. Whereas we're asking for what are the current policies, practices, and procedures in order to prevent abuse from happening in the future.
Yeah, well, these were policies and procedures that are in force now may well have been what was in force then. We don't know that they've been changed.
Obviously, they're related. I'm not saying they're not related, but I just wanted to make that clarification, right? Like that our committee is not looking into what happened in the past.
But we are looking at where the systems that were in place failed. And if these policies have changed, and as a result of those changes, have they resulted in, putting a stop to?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Right.
That is an excellent point where the two viewpoints overlap in a very appropriate manner to understand.
And this would be a perfect time to maybe ask our district attorney who's present on past allegations, like what that investigation entailed. And was there ever an effort to maybe encourage the change of certain policies that we're creating or adding to that culture that resulted in sexual abuse of our youth for like the last 50 years there in our institutions? Because we have convictions from your department on even our last chief who was a sexual predator of youth. Like, has there been any interaction? Maybe you can assist us on that. Moving forward, this committee that we're investigating, because that would definitely help us if we could find out if the district attorney, as a result of these convictions, the facts that they took place, ranging from doctors, teachers, probation officers, chief, CPS, like it's just been everybody has been involved in sexual deviant behavior toward our kids.
Paul, the chief was never convicted of.
The last chief?
He was convicted of having pornography. He was never convicted of having done anything to any of our youth. He was never accused of doing anything that I recall at the time.
Okay.
And I was on the commission when that happened.
So let me rephrase that then. He had kiddie porn.
Yes.
Right?
Sadistic
He had kiddie
kiddie
porn,
porn.
sadistic. And we could get into the details of that because these kids are in handcuffs and other things like that, which was on this chief's computer as well. So he's a sexually deviant, convicted sexual deviant of youth, right? That I'm not sure if he actually harmed anybody, but the fact that this chief had kiddie porn on him.
Stupid.
No, it's not stupid. It's sick. It's sick, right? It's sick.
He
And
was fired because of it, right?
He was tried and convicted and served time in prison.
The chief, the former chief.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
so at the highest levels, we've had this. So it has, we just would like to know if the DA has ever encouraged or been a part of amending any policies.
I just want to know what we are doing about it as a county.
Well, this is a perfect time to get our DA who's done something about it, right? We're trying to do something. They have done something. So I think they're a great teacher in this field of sexual predators preying on our kids that are locked in cages that are vulnerable. So that's what I'm asking, if you would be able to assist us in any
So
way.
what is the question?
The question
I'm
is,
listening. I want to make sure I
If the
understand your
district
question.
attorney's office has ever worked with the probation to maybe encourage or amend any policies that we're creating or creating this culture of sexual abuse of our children. That's what I'd like to know, because District Attorney Wagstaff prides himself of being there 45 years. So that means he's been a part of 45 years of convictions from the bottom of probation to the top of probation. Can he educate us on what he's done to maybe help the department clean itself up? That's what we're asking, right? Is that a fair term?
I think I understand what you're asking.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's not information that I have now,
Of course.
but it's something I can ask.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I apologize if I confused you. Sometimes I'm long-winded.
You have a lot of color and detail.
I do.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
that's the update there.
Were there any other questions about this? Okay, so moving on to 5B. We formed a committee to try to improve the food and the sleeping conditions in the hall and at Camp Kemp. And so that committee includes myself, Commissioner Rasmussen, Commissioner Wilson. And I don't think I've left anyone else.
Padma?
And Padma, a prospective commissioner, as a volunteer, is helping us out. Thank you. We have met a couple of times, and one development is that I had in January, prior to the formation of this committee, asked through Supervisor Canepa's office to get a presentation to the Board of Supervisors scheduled to present our inspection results or our inspection recommendations, inspection reports and recommendations, which included, the recommendations included improving the food and also, for example, hiring staff so that youth at Camp Kemp don't have to go to juvenile hall to sleep. So that's the subject of the committee. And that presentation has been scheduled for April 25th. 25th, I think.
It is, it's my 25th wedding.
Yes. I can remember, was it 27th or the 25th? Or April 25th. And also, I think I had mentioned this in the previous meeting, but the idea of going to the Board of Supervisors to prevent our inspection recommendations had also come up in the Reimagined Juvenile Hall Committee meetings that Paul and I have been attending. And in the most recent one, Chief Keen presented a list of improvements that are being made in the hall, investments that are being made at the hall. And so the suggestion was made then that we should do a joint presentation to the Board of Supervisors so that we can talk about our recommendations for changes that will have to be made in the hall. And at the same time, the chief could also say, here are some things that we're doing, right? Like we are spending some of the money that we're getting to make improvements in the hall. So that's what's going to happen on April 25th is a joint presentation, we hope. It is scheduled. So that's one of our next steps as far as trying to improve food and lodging is getting in front of the board and supervisors to recommend it.
Great, good work.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I don't think there were any other updates. Did I leave anything out, Commissioner Rasmussen?
I think we're good. I did get confirmation from Christina Corpus that she will be forwarding over the MOU for food services.
Because the food services in the hall and at Camp Kemp are provided by the Sheriff's Department.
Through the county jail.
Through the county jail. Okay. And, oh, one other thing that also happened is that you filed a public records request for the budget, right?
I did.
Have you heard anything back on that?
Yes, the county council, and unfortunately I didn't get his name. I was driving when he phoned. But he has recognized the receipt of our public records request and said he is working on getting us a copy of the budgets. And the budgets
for the hall and Camp County.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Great. All right, let's move on to, in the interest of time, I'm gonna try to keep us moving along here now, just to 5C in the agenda, which is an update on 2023 inspections.
So we are back at inspection time again. And so I have created in our Google Drive, under inspections, you'll find the 2023 inspection information. I've created an annual inspection timeline and task that will give each inspection lead sort of a gauge on, the timeline that you should be on going forward. So signups are live. You'll see the signups there. Please sign up as soon as possible so your team can get organized and begin work. So just to give you an understanding of sort of where how the year falls with inspection. So the February to April period is the time when the teams sort of form. Everyone signs up, the teams form. You sort of review the last year inspection for that particular facility, whatever team you're on. You want to review it. You want to make sure that you are up to speed on what last year's recommendations were. So then you can address them again to see if they've been resolved, and then sort of come up with a game plan. Now, everyone, you will see also in the Google Drive, for each team, there's already a folder created that has the template of the inspection forms and any other relevant information there. Teams are encouraged to review it and brainstorm together and add questions that they feel are relevant to that inspection. We ask that you not remove anything from the document, but you are free to add whatever you feel as a team would be beneficial, because things do come up that are different. And so we really encourage you to do so. So February to April is sort of review, team formation, signups. May through June is when you're going to start requesting any documents that you can receive from the facility prior to your actual inspection date, so you can familiarize yourself with what's going on there. You'll want to finalize your forms, and you're going to want to start making your appointments for your inspections. The September to November period, so May through June is when you make the appointments and you finalize your forms. And then typically inspections, we run August to August. So August is the time that we'd like to get in and actually perform the inspections. And then that would leave September to November to review the draft copies of the reports, to circulate them, and then to get them into the meeting agendas and get them voted on and get them approved. And then
in time for our final meeting of the year in November.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then the letters will issue out again at the end of the year, and hopefully not at $1,000 expense. Hopefully they'll be covered this time.
Will they be responded to?
And so that's where we're at. We're back to inspection. So does anyone have any questions? Again, everything is located in the Google Drive under inspections, and please feel free to get started as soon as possible. Any questions? All right.
All right, thank you. So moving on to 5D, Commissioner Wilson, you have a project, leading a project on understanding transitioning of detained youth.
Yes.
Do you have any updates for us?
Well, I just have such an amazing team that now numbers 6, that the project has grown slightly so that we can do more coverage. The primary targets are CASA and parents. We have a parent of a child who's been in the justice system that's been really helpful. And I sent this letter with questions for probation staff. We hope to talk to the judges, but that didn't happen this week. So yeah, we're rocking and rolling.
The
Basically.
letter is in the agenda packet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, we're waiting for county council to do whatever they need to do to be able to actually go in and find out what transition plans look like.
What is it that you need county council's support on?
Well, Judith has said that we may read case files, and so we need their lawyers and our lawyers to come to agreement about that, and then.
So our council says that we can read case files,
Yes.
and the question is, will probation's council agree?
Right, this is a bit of a test.
Okay. So that's one of
That's
the
it.
next steps, yeah. Any other questions for Commissioner Wilson on this project? Or are there any other comments?
I guess I should just acknowledge the team. So Zahara, Padma, Ruth, Leslie, me, and.
I think that's it.
Really? Okay. That's 5.
Zahara, welcome, by the way.
Yeah, welcome, Zahara.
Yeah, one of our youth commissioner liaisons, youth commission liaisons, yeah. All right, Melissa, I think you're up next also
Okay.
for the next item on the agenda, which is another project that you're leading.
Another project.
Another update, which is, sorry, remind us, what is that project?
This is to get the data on measures of academic progress, to see what the youth, the skills advancement the youth are making in English and in math.
While in detention.
While in detention, because detention is an amazing opportunity for them to bring their skills up. The connection between reading and likelihood of entering the justice system is really well known. And so if we wanted to be if we want to provide them with the services they need to not enter the justice system again, they have to be reading. And we don't know this because the school, while all schools, public schools have public reporting requirements, our school's public reporting is not reported because of the low numbers of youth. And so the part of our committee that can look at confidential, possibly identifying information, will be looking at the possibly identifying information, cleaning that, and then sharing that information publicly. And that committee is Amaya, Karen, and me.
Any other updates or comments or questions?
And you've already got a response from.
Yeah, so for both of those
Superintendent
letters, for both of those projects, Chief Keen responded and confirmed receipt of the email. I had already emailed both Nancy McGee and him previously. And so on this letter, I said, please confirm receipt, because I didn't hear back from them. And I got receipt confirmed from both of them.
Sorry, the letter to Chief Keenan was for the previous project, and for this one on educational skills attainment, it was to Superintendent McGee.
Yes.
And she also responded.
Yes, so after our last meeting, when the project got approved, I sent the project plan to each of them and just said, hey, this is giving you a heads up that this is coming down. I will be making a formal request.
Right.
So, and I didn't hear back from that email, so that's why I was careful to say, please respond, confirm receipt.
Got it.
So.
Okay. Thank you for that update.
And I think the Board of Ed is excited about the
The
project.
County Board of Education.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you say that?
That's feedback I've received.
Okay, sounds great. Terrific. All right, so moving on. Thank you for that update.
Sure.
And we're going to move on to a new project proposal from Commissioner Amaya Nori. And you take it away, man.
Yeah. So I guess recently at MA, there have been multiple instances of students bringing firearms to campus, and inevitably those students getting expelled from campus. So I thought it would be interesting to look into how the schools and local police deal with instances of youth bringing firearms onto campus, and see if there are any measures that we can take or policies that can be changed to not, or I guess just to benefit the youth and the school. together this.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Yeah, and there's a full description of the project plan and proposal in the agenda packet that hopefully everybody had a chance to review.
I'd like to make a motion to.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to accept this project plan as proposed by Commissioner Amanori.
Yeah, I second. And currently it's just me and Monroe. So if anyone else wants to join.
We might have some volunteers who.
Might have some
might be interested
volunteers.
in helping.
Or prospective commissioners.
Prospective commissioners as volunteers. I just want to say I really like the idea that you're going to be doing some benchmarking around the state or country or counties and understanding what best practices are in this area. That's great.
Yeah. Any other questions for Commissioner Nori, Commissioner Amaya Nori, before we vote to approve the project? All right, do we still have a quorum? I think Commissioner Bocanegra got up. I think, yes, we do. All right. All those in favor of approving this new project, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passes unanimously.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much.
Good work.
All right.
Thrilled.
Could we,
Really interesting project.
Great job.
would it be okay, since Paul, it might be on the phone or in the restroom, would it be okay if we had them present on their League of Women Voters so Paul could be here when we talk about trying this as adult citizens?
Sure.
Yeah.
Commissioner Swope and Wilson presented at the League of Women Voters this past month. And so I just put that as an update to update us on how that went.
We were fabulous.
You were fabulous.
You were.
Why don't you tell the public what you did and what kind of feedback you got?
Well, Susan and I put a lot of prep in. We tried to focus on legal developments in the last 5 years. Were you in attendance? No, okay, you were looking like, yes.
No, I'm excited what everything you're saying, but there's a video of it. I can send it to you.
Oh, yeah, so we talked about the evolving understanding of juvenile offending, frontal lobe development, trauma, restorative approaches, the law. The last 5 years, there have been so many legal changes. We actually learned a lot, I think, in having to research and really understand what we were going to present. We walked them through what juvenile hall looked like, what our concerns were, what projects were, what we hope to accomplish in the future, and what our legal mandate was.
That's pretty much it. And I think we had a great deal of interest. We had questions during and pretty much I think it filled the space that was allowed for Q&A. But
this was a online webinar with League of Women Voters that lasted an hour or more, right? And do you know how many people were in attendance?
About 38, 38, I think. Behavioral health was a topic of interest to them. That was a theme that came up.
And is there a link to the recording on the League of Women?
Yeah, they circulated, they sent around
Website?
recording just the other day, so.
I know, yeah, I saw it go out on email, but do you think it's available online somewhere?
sure, I think it probably is. I haven't looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the full name of the organization is, are they the San Mateo County League of Women
The
Voters?
North and Central League of Women.
Can we put a link on our website to it, to your
The
presentation?
League of Women Voters of North and Central
San Mateo.
San Mateo County.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think the South County is going to be next.
So if someone wanted to find the presentation and watch the recording, they can search for that.
We can figure it out.
We can put it on our direct, our tree that we have, our direct me tree.
Great.
So when people click on it for our social media, they can find it there. So I can add it there. If I have the link, I can add it there.
Okay, I can send that to you. And I wonder, is there a way, can we put that in with news on our website?
You'd have to ask whoever's doing
I'll ask. I'll ask you.
All right, Commissioner Rasmussen, why don't you go ahead and.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
I wanted to say one last thing.
Yes.
Rose asked me to say that the comments she had to leave, the comments she made were not on behalf of Fly, but on behalf of herself. So she asked for that. I think it's important that I make sure that it gets recorded. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Did we have any interest from the people attending? to join
Nobody
the meeting?
contacted me or you.
No, not yet.
membership.
Not yet, but maybe it's
It's a percolation
right upon
thing,
the waters.
7 times.
Yes.
So I just heard from Paul that he's actually presenting at the Latinx meeting right now. So that's what
So he had
he's
excused
stepped out to do.
himself.
Oh, is that here?
Huh? He's giving a presentation down the hall.
Oh, but, oh.
I don't think they're not meeting in person here.
They're on Zoom. He's
Oh,
on
it's on
Zoom.
Zoom.
So, okay.
Go ahead, Johanna.
So,
Sorry, we're on, for anyone who's following along, we're at 6A and 6B. Which one are you going to take first?
I will take the resolution against trying use as adults. So
Update on that.
yes, so as many of you remember, we passed a resolution unanimously opposing the trying use as adults in San Mateo County. And Commissioner Bocanegra and I met with District Attorney Wagstaff, and we asked him to place a moratorium on this practice. And the reason why we brought the resolution to the commission and why we met with the district attorney is because at that time we had 3 transfer hearing requests, which was unusual. That was a lot for the time. And one had since resolved, but we currently still have 3. And so we passed that. We've been out in the community. We've been doing a lot of outreach. And we've quite a few people on board with us. We've got, Senator Josh Becker, Supervisor Noah Yacorzo, Supervisor David Canepa, City Council Member James Coleman. We've got Human Rights Watch, Reach Coalition, Silicon Valley Debug, San Mateo County Democracy for America. And I got word this week that the San Mateo County Democratic Party took this up at their March meeting, and they passed, it was 19 yeses and 1 abstention for Mark Berman because his representative hadn't had a chance to talk with them yet. That they passed their own resolution and supporting our resolution. And I understand that they're going to be having and that's pretty big. I mean, that's the San Mateo County Democratic Party. So they are putting the school to prison pipeline on their party platform, right? So they're going to be, I understand that I don't know when the meeting specifics are. I just got word, Johanna, we brought this to the meeting so they passed it. And so there's a lot of talk happening in the community. And
I want to add that, sorry, I had to interrupt, but I'd add that the ACLU North Peninsula chapter also wrote a letter in support of the resolution.
Johanna, we're on the Google Doc. I look under BOS resolutions. It's not there. So where do I look for it?
I will have to look and see. I think I'll have to look and see. I think it's on the try and use as adults thing under courts.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to provide an update that there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of meetings taking place. And there's a lot of the community is basically saying that they agree with our stance and that children should and can be rehabilitated.
Johanna, I'm actually working with Supervisor Corzo's office to get a similar resolution passed by the Youth Commission as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, all right. So that was the update there. And then Paul and I did our presentation at Mills High School, which was great. The kids loved it. It's a social justice class. And we talked about, Paul shared his story. I shared my story as a parent. We made sort of a little brochure and passed it around that included a QR code so they could scan with their phones to go and apply if they wanted to become, join the commission. And I also included a little bit in my annual retreat, Catholic retreat. I teach confirmation to high school students. And so I included it this weekend. I gave a pitch in social justice, come join our commission if you're interested. So that was our updates there.
Great. That brings us to the end of the agenda for the joint meetings of our 2 commissions. Commissioners, were there any other updates or announcements before we adjourn this meeting?
I have one.
Yeah.
So this is regarding the Jumpstart grant and the collaboration Today's Future Sound that was last year.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been in talks with Ken, and it looks like their proposal would probably fall through for San Mateo County.
For
they toured, and it looks like a positive light for the proposal to provide beat making therapy for incarcerated.
So they are going to be doing it.
I don't know if it's exact yes, but
this is Today's Future Sound.
Today's Future Sound, I think they work with Alameda. Yes.
Yeah, I think they went through the RFP process with our hall and got funded and got accepted.
Yes,
So they're going to be providing services in the hall.
which is good.
That's fantastic.
Excellent, thank
That's a
you.
great suggestion. Yeah, Commissioner Bustos suggested that before he became a commissioner, and then it, and it,
Wishes.
yeah, came to fruition. Yeah, that's fantastic.
I see a hand up in the.
Yeah, go ahead. Michael, did you want to make public comment before we adjourn?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity again. Sorry, I couldn't, I was trying to, you know, skillfully sneaked in at the end of section 5, but I wasn't successful. But anyway, I'm speaking here as a member of the public, and I just want to bring your attention to a new lawsuit that's being filed on the with regards to the digital jail mail system. Not sure. And I was just wondering if the commission would consider taking it as a new project, because there was a component about not being able to have the physical letters or photos or whatever, you know, for the person who what?
There was a lawsuit filed?
Yeah, let me try to explain. So the Youth Law Center filed against the sheriff's office, which currently digitizes letters as they come in and photos, and provides only a digital copy rather than the actual physical copy. And they're citing security as the reason.
Is this in the adult jails?
This is in the sheriff's jails. So that was filed. I thought I sent that out. That was filed 2 weeks ago, I think. And so Michael, what you're asking is for the commission to maybe weigh in, like with a resolution supporting adult inmates to have physical possession of their mail.
Well, not so much as the adult. I was just thinking about youth. I mean, is that practice
That doesn't happen in our juvenile hall. They're getting physical letters, so I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Michael. And that's something maybe we can look into in a future meeting. If there are no other updates or comments, then, Commissioner Liu, go ahead.
On April 14th, that's from this Friday, 2 Fridays from then, the California Association of Youth Courts will be hosting a virtual roundtable on teen dating violence with a focus on how to apply it for youth courts and peer diversion programs. And it will be hosted from 3:30 to 4:45 on Zoom, and I'll distribute the Zoom link after.
Thank you. All right, hearing no other announcements, I will adjourn the meeting of this is the joint meeting of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission commissions. And commissioners, you'll see on the agenda 8 that we're going to have a brief non-public meeting of the Juvenile Justice Commission. So please stick around for that.
Thank you for everyone who attended.
Thank you for everyone who attended on Zoom.
Please.
We're going to end